let's get started. So let's go to the introduction. If you've joined previous trainings and had the occasion to meet me before, today is going to be slightly different. Instead of doing an in-depth presentation on an existing aspect of ZK or Keikai, we're going to take a look at a project that is not yet fully realized, that is currently in the early stage of development. We're going to do that as a look at the mission of that project, what we're trying to achieve, as well as a proof of concept of what we hope the user experience and the usage for developer is going to be. Okay, so today we're going to talk about Keikai Doc. We intend it to be a what you see is what you get document editor. We want it to be integrated in the ZK and Keikai ecosystem, which is to say easy for a ZK or Keikai developer to add in an existing application that uses the same mechanism as other component in that ecosystem, such as access by Java API, control from server side, interoperability with other objects or other services that might exist. We also want to be feature rich, out of the box, ready to use, but at the same time, we want it to be customizable because there's never one single use case. We want to keep in mind that you may have a different way to use it than what we have in mind. So we want it to be easy to modify to suit those different use cases. Okay. We're going to go through the presentation first. At the end, I'm going to go through a few of what we assume are going to be questions that are going to go with that product. And we're going to do a Q&A, and I would very much appreciate if you're still there at that time, that you stay for a quick survey. Because since this is an early build, we are very interested in seeing what you have in mind and to get some feedback on what you're going to see today. Okay, so with that, let's get started. If you have any question, feel free to just put them in the chat. I'm not necessarily going to go over all the questions as they come, but we will do a Q&A section at the end where I'll go over everything. Okay, so the basics. What we want to create is a WYSIWYG editor. What you see is what you get, which is to say a space in your web application where the end user can work on documents with a user experience that is going to be first familiar to them, because this is not going to be the first document editor that they will ever encounter. So we first want them to be comfortable with it, that any skill, any habit that they might have from a different editor would be portable to the Keikai Doc editor. So that includes the type of layout, that includes the type of option of controls, and also the type of workflow, copy and pasting, undoing, redoing, all the sort of things that you would want to do in a what you see, what you get type text editor. And then, as I mentioned, we want it to be ready out of the box. So that means for the most general use case, which is to say to write down text, put on a different font, a title, maybe change the color, put different blocks of content, we're going to want that to be a simple put it in your application and it's ready to go. At the same time, we're aware that you may want to do something else with it. Maybe you want it to display an existing document, but you don't want the user to be able to make modifications to it. In that case, you'd want to hide the toolbar. You'd want to make it non-interactive. Maybe you want to have a more lightweight entry point where you only allow maybe bold, underlined, and italic text. That kind of situation. So we want all of those aspects to be controllable from an API point of view from Java and from your ZUL file if you have properties you want to set in the ZUL file. As I said, we also want it to be easy to use, so that includes having the built-in history support. Operations like undo and redo are very important when editing a document. So that's something we're absolutely keeping in mind at the current stage. How do we think this should be introduced in an existing ZK application? As simply as possible, because a document, in this case, would be a docpad, is essentially a ZK component. So we want to be able to use it with a ZK ZUL file. We want it to be usable if you create your component in Java as well, with simple attributes that you can set on it, and then the ability to go into your composer, into your view model, if you're using a view model to set those properties, and then just access the document model and do operations that you would need to do on that model. So yeah, the intention is add it as a dependency and then use it as you would use, for example, the Keikai spreadsheet component. All right. Now for more interesting user experience, because this is integrated in the ZK ecosystem, which include Keikai spreadsheet already and which include other ZK features. We wanted to support more complex content that includes supporting spreadsheet data, that includes supporting charts generated from a Keikai spreadsheet, for example. And we want those things to be interactive with each other. In the current screen, you can see one of the type of user experience we have in mind, which is to build a complex report by having a spreadsheet on the left that contains your raw data, including spreadsheet calculation, this kind of thing, and to simply bring into your report the different elements that make sense for that specific document. All right. And we want to go a little bit further than that, because a report is one thing, but we want to also be able to support experiences, and especially interactive experiences in those situations. That include, for example, putting in more complex objects such as ZK components. A simple example that you're seeing on screen at the moment would be including a ZK dropdown or a button or a text box to go beyond just a simple text input and to actually create interactive experiences in page, to treat them either as more customizable, more complex forms, or to treat them as more complex entries that can be navigated by the end user. Okay, so I mentioned earlier integrating with Keikai. That would include things like retrieving the content of a cell and linking the content of that cell to a piece of the document using essentially an anchor to put that data into the WordPad. And because we are linking data and not just copying it, that would let you essentially treat your document as a template. If the data source change, you want that data to be automatically updated. If you copy a chart, you want the chart content to also reflect any update that might happen if your data source is different. We want also to be able to load that content from an existing file, for example, a docx file, or just write that content directly into the docpad from Java APIs. Okay. There is one more thing we have in mind in terms of feature set for a online editor in 2025. It's a topic that is somewhat difficult to avoid at the moment. It's the ability to hook into a third-party language model. So there's a lot of discussion about how AI can improve workflows in a business context. We don't think that the Keikai doc itself should be bundled with a specific AI model. However, we think it should be very easy to hook into an existing model, which you may already have a subscription for. So in this case, what you're seeing on screen is what we have in mind for the complexity requirement of essentially running prompts on your existing docpad. So how does that entail? Simply creating a chat language model from basic information, in this case from an OpenAI model, which require an API key, require the model name that we want to connect with, and simply pass that instance to the docpad, which is our document object in the page. And once we have that AI editor built and tied to the document, we can just execute prompts. So that would be executing default prompts. So in this case, if I have my command for AI chat, I want to simply send the prompt continue write, which is already predefined. But we also keep in mind that you may have specific workflows that you would want to achieve, in which case you may have your own prompts, and the AI model should support the ability to either modify the default prompts or to simply add your own. Essentially, with that, that would give the developer the ability to fine-tune the relationship between the AI model and the content that is being actually passed to the end user by controlling what data is being sent, what prompt are being executed against the AI model itself. So that's about the mission statement. That's the goals we have in mind for our editor component. I also want to show you a little mock-up of what we think a good use case for a user experience would be with Keikai Doc. So let me go to my web browser. Okay, so this is a report page that I am currently working on. I have already written the text that I'm expected to generate, and I want to make it nicer with data. So I have a Keikai spreadsheet on the left, in which I'm going to simply import an existing spreadsheet. And those different elements of my spreadsheet are going to be used to make my report nicer. So first, I'm going to want to say in my opening statement, I'm going to want to inform what the average net profit for Q1 has been. So I'll be able to just go ahead and say that the Q1 average net profit in dollar US is going to come from my spreadsheet. And I'm going to say Q1 average net profit is here. I'm linking the cell with the coordinate E6 to my page. Okay, then in the market insight and risk. For the insights, it's good to have something visual. So I'm going to go and link my chart that gives a good explainer in the opening of the insight and risk. And I also want to include some more data, but I'll do that at the end to not draw on the point first. So I'll go ahead, again, import, select my data, and have it inserted in my report. Now, because this is the same Keikai model that I use on the left in the spreadsheet component and on the right in my report, if I happen to move data or to change something, let's say that we had incorrect balance for the month of March. Instead of having 29,000 in revenue and 9,000 in sold goods, we actually sold 20,000 amount of goods, but we made 60,000 in revenue. This is going to change all of my values in my spreadsheet, obviously, because my values are based on formulas and other mechanism that the spreadsheet allows for calculation. This is also going to be automatically modified into the spreadsheet insert that comes in my report. Same goes with the average profit that I've linked at the top, and same goes with the values. You can see the 60,000 that I've updated for the month of March has been modified as well on the chart itself. And so in that way, we intend to create a strong connection between the data model and between the output of the data model, which is to say the report inside of the document. All right, let's get back to the presentation. I think that's about it for the mission statement, for the intent, and I hope the demonstration was interesting into how we intend that to be used in a real world situation. And of course, that's just one of the possible application. Any place where you would want to have a more complex text input or text reporting display is going to be of interest to us. So now let's go to a few general questions before we go to your own questions at the end and to the survey. All right. So the first important question is, what's the current stage of development? The first thing I'm going to have to say is this is a sneak peek in a very early build of the component, where I would say somewhere between alpha and pre-alpha at this stage. So this is definitely not a mature project. It will need to cook a little longer. At the moment, we want to release a Keikai Docs Lite, which is going to be the core feature of the WYSIWYG editor, but without any of the additional in-depth feature that will go with it. We intend that package to be ready sooner so that our developers can get some feedback on what you think about that light version, while we work on delivering something much more ambitious for the full package. And for the full package, we also want to guide the development based on your feedback. So that's why we're very interested in knowing what you think about the ideas that I've expressed today and where you would like to see that project going. For the light package, we expect it to be ready in a few weeks, but it's not today ready to download quite yet. It's going to come soon, much sooner than the full package. Okay, and a note on that at the end. Okay, so another question that we expect to see is, how is Keikai Doc different than Google Docs or CK Editor? Because those are the two names you're going to likely be familiar when we're talking about editing documents into a web page. So Google Docs is the main difference that we see between Keikai Docs and Google Docs is that Google Docs runs on Google Cloud, whereas Keikai Doc is a part of your application. It might not be a concern for you that the data, that the formulas, that all of your document content exists in someone else's server. But we do think that there are definitely cases where it is much preferable to have full control over where your data reside, rather than delegating it to the cloud or to a third party. In terms of CK Editor, I would say CK Editor and Keikai Doc generally are part of the same niche. They're not exactly the same, but they have similar intents, which is to say a document editor in browser that generate code using what you see is what you get. Experiences for the end user. A big difference is Keikai Doc is going to be a native member of the ZK ecosystem, which is going to be controlled by the ZK engine in Java. Whereas the CK editor that is currently available in ZK is a wrapper for a third-party JavaScript library with Java controls, but is not natively designed for that purpose. Lastly, on the topic of CK Editor 4, we are aware that a number of our users are concerned about the end of life status of CK Editor 4, which is being replaced by CK Editor 5. And in this case, Keikai is meant to be not a competitor, but an alternative to going into the CK Editor 5 ecosystem. Okay. I'll go over the different question at the end because some of them are going to be probably in the FAQ that I'm currently displaying. So give me maybe 5 more minutes for me to get until the end of those first. Okay. Does Keikai Doc support real-time collaboration on the same document? It's part of our planning. It's not going to be available in the early stage. Depending on user feedback, if that's something that we see a requirement from enough community member, we will definitely give it more consideration in that case. Importing, exporting from doc. I think I saw that one in the chat. So at the current time, importing is going to be an option, directly getting data from a Word document. We also want to be able to write data programmatically from Java into the document. Both cases are going to be available. Exporting is at the moment undefined. We know that exporting to doc is going to be a somewhat complex task, so it will depend on demand. If we see that we have quite a lot of demand for the exporting, that's something we're going to evaluate. At the moment, we don't know whether or not it's going to be either a core feature or something that would be controlled by the developer themselves based on demo code that we would provide. Okay, using Keikai Doc to as a reporting. We want to be to use Keikai Docs in the same environment as Keikai spreadsheet. In the way that I've demonstrated earlier during the live demo, in order to build rich reports. We also want to support complex objects, chart, images, table, linked label, this kind of thing, to provide both visual appeal, readability, and to make the building of those reports easier than just retyping everything by hand every time. Okay, integration with AI, very quickly. Does Keikai Doc integrate with AI, and can you use your own AI model? As I mentioned during the presentation part, we want to provide a AI editor support class that integrates with language models in a generic way. We don't want to tie down Keikai Docs to one specific model. We don't want to say you have to use OpenAI and only OpenAI. Instead, you would use libraries that are provided by the different AI providers to simply forward your request to whichever model you want to use. And maybe you don't even want to use a commercial model. Maybe you have your own bespoke model that you've developed or collaborated with to create something that match your specific requirement, in which case the AI editor would be linked to that instead. Okay. Is there going to be any usage limitation on AI in Keikai Doc? Not from Keikai. We're not going to say you have a limited budget or how many credits to use the Keikai Doc API in this manner. That said, your AI provider might. That's going to be between you and whichever model you're going to want to use. Okay. Can you download Keikai Doc and try it right now? Not quite. We're working on it. As I said, the project is very early. There are going to be freshly builds in the future to let you interact with the component and get a direct feel of how it's going to work for you. As I said, we're going to release a light version, which is going to be the very basics. What you see is what you get editor as a component, but without all of the advanced feature that I've discussed during the call today. And that one is going to come in, we expect a few weeks. Of course, you know how development is. It's difficult for me to give you a very, very clear timeline, but it's going to be coming very soon. Okay, and with that, we're coming to the end. The document that I'm using, the PowerPoint, is going to be made available. If you want to get more information, you can go to keikai.io/doc, which is the official page of the project. And we have small talks available on our small talk page that talk about our intent and the current state of the Keikai Doc project. Those links are available, or you can just search for ZK Smalltalk to find them directly. Okay, survey and Q&A. I'm going to run a small survey because your opinion matters quite a lot for us, especially at this early stage of development. If you're interested in being contacted for a live demo or to be notified when the project gets available for downloads, there will be a field in the survey that you can fill in with your email address. And I'll let you take a look. In the meantime, let me take a quick look at the chat so that I can see what else we've not discussed. Can we test the light version? As I said, it's going to come up in a few weeks. Can you save the document as a Word file? And can you import a Word file? Importing is much more on the table currently. Exporting, as I said, will depend on interest. So if that's something that would be a hard requirement for you, I'd suggest including that into your survey response. Can Keikai Doc be used to build a dynamic web page with read-only option? Yes, that's one of the intent. We know that for non-technical user, creating a beautiful page in either HTML or using ZK component might be difficult. So instead, an alternative for user-generated content would be to just create the experience as a Word document and use that as the basis for a doc pad in your page. Make it interactive with ZK component if that's something you want to do, and then display it as simply a browser page. That's one of the use cases we have in mind. Can you use Keikai Doc to preview a docx file in your ZK app like PDF viewer? That's also one of the intent. The importing currently in pre-alpha is not ready for me to go and show you in detail as we expect it to work, but it's something we do have in mind for the future. And can you display a ZK chart inside the doc? Yes, absolutely. We want to display a complex component. And one of the complex component we want to display, in fact, is a chart. Let me go to the demo page I was showing you earlier. As you can see here, on the left, I have a Keikai spreadsheet. On the right, I have a Keikai doc. Both of them are using a chart that is generated by ZK chart. And in this case, I'm linking the chart from the Keikai spreadsheet into the Keikai doc. But using API, Java API, you would be able to simply make a new charts object, put data, put plot options, put chart attributes on it, and then have it simply inserted in your chart at the location of your choice. Okay. Can any component be added linked to Keikai doc? At this early stage of development, yes. There might be limitations in the future. I'm not sure what they would be. As I said, we're very much into early design, uncharted territory at this stage, and we are throwing a lot of ideas, and we want to see what is going to be the most interesting one for our users, for our developers, and which one we're going to want to focus the most to deliver in the full release. Does Keikai Doc provide all of the feature of CK Editor? That's a hard question to answer because all of the feature of CK Editor can be it can be a narrow answer. Like if you download the basic package of CK Editor 4, do we have all of the WYSIWYG Edition feature? I would say probably yes. But if you're going to say, can we have every plugin that ever has been created for CK Editor? I'm going to say definitely no. And at the same time, there is a difference in design philosophy because CK Editor is at its core a JavaScript library, so it lives in the browser. Whereas Keikai Doc is a Java library that has a in the same way as other ZK components do, that is controlled by Java but has an output in the browser. In that sense, it's going to work somewhat differently under the hood. Why is it called Keikai Doc and not ZK Doc? Mostly, ZK is the framework that is based on communication between a Java-led server and the output, which is done on a client browser. Keikai is the I would say the document office-ish um, library where we already have the spreadsheet. And so in addition to Keikai spreadsheet, we also want to have Keikai doc for the documents. Those two things are related. They're meant to be used together, so they share a namespace in that sense. Will it be possible to design more complex report as box palette label that will contain border blocks, barcode field? There is a barcode component in ZK already. We can insert ZK component in the reports. That's not a case I've tested. That's not something I've discussed, to be entirely honest. I don't see why not, but I cannot give you a commitment on that at this stage. Can I get the example source code for this talk? No, because this is not the full state of the release. If I were to give you this source code, it would be unrecognizable from the final package once it is ready. This is more a proof of concept, a declaration of intent. So you're not going to see the finished API. You're not going to see the actual working features in the source code of that specific presentation. However, we will absolutely release demo with source code once we have packages that are ready to be let out to the public. Okay, let me take a quick look. I see we have a few answers on the survey already. If you have not completed the survey and you'd like to, I'm going to keep the call open for another 5 minutes. But otherwise, I think we're coming to the end of what I intended to show you today. I know it's very different than what I usually do. Usually we go more into code details, technical information, that kind of thing. I hope that was interesting, and I hope the insight into both our thought process and our intention for that future tool are going to be interesting to you. And we look forward to hear from you either on the survey or If you want to contact us later, you know where to find us. We're always happy to get feedback or to get your opinion, especially at this stage. How big is the content Keikai doc can handle? Uh, don't believe there is a defined size at the moment. This is essentially a document editor. I would say that the limit on the size of a text content are more a limit on what the user is capable to read than what the text editor is capable to handle. Uh, if you have a specific use case in mind, I very much suggest that you get in touch with us at the sales or support emails and just let you know what you think. We're very happy to get, as I say, at this early stage, feedback is very important to us. We're happy to get your idea of how you would use the component and what you'd like to see in it. Okay. So yeah, anyone who is still filling the survey, you're free to stay a little bit. Everyone else, very, very much thank you for coming. Hope you had an interesting time, and I hope to see you on the next as the expert or the next training. Yeah, thank you for being there.